Now, with a special guest to really open the festival, to make his opening remarks. It's His Grace, Archbishop Timothy Costelloe.
Woo!
So please, can I get you a big round of applause? His Grace, welcome to the stage. His Grace, Archbishop Costelloe.
Thanks, Clarence, very much. Thanks a lot, everybody. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here and to be able to just say a few words to you and to officially open and welcome the Veritas Festival for this year. In a way, it's a little bit of a mini festival because, of course, we're all looking very much towards the Australian Catholic Youth Festival, which is going to be here in Perth, down at the Convention Centre in December 8, 9 and 10. So make sure you're there. It's going to be a fantastic few days. We're hoping for quite a few thousand young people from across WA and across Australia who'll all come together to celebrate who we are. But tonight, that's a few months away. Tonight, I'm here to just say a few words to welcome you and just to set the scene. We already heard, I think, in the opening remarks that yesterday happened to be the feast day of our one and only Australian canonised saint, Mary MacKillop. Some of you would know a lot about her, some maybe not so much. I'm not going to speak a great deal about her tonight, but I mention her for two reasons. One is that she's an Australian. She was born here, not here in WA, she was born in Melbourne, but she was born in Australia, she grew up in Australia, and Australia is a place, that means, where you can be absolutely one of the heroes of the Christian faith, which stretches back 2,000 years. You don't have to come from somewhere in the past, you don't have to come from somewhere overseas. Being a faithful Christian is as Australian as it can possibly be. That's what Mary MacKillop teaches us. Thank you. Well done. One thing most of you will have heard about Mary MacKillop, if you haven't heard anything else, is one of her really famous sayings, and it's this: never see a need without doing something about it. It's a pretty simple piece of advice, and it's a piece of advice she used to give to the young women who joined her when she decided to set out on her mission to care, especially for people who were poor, who were a bit isolated in the bush, kids who couldn't get to a school. She'd send these young women out to look after them and to teach them and care for them. So never see a need without doing something about it. It's a great piece of advice, but of course what it means is that if you're going to live that way, you've got to have eyes that are wide open and on the lookout for people in need. You've got to have ears that are sort of tuned in so you can pick up the signals, because people don't always come out and just say how much they're in need. Sometimes it takes a while to realise it. So you've got to have the eyes, you've got to have the ears, but even more than that, you've got to have a heart that wants to help. It seems to me that you can't possibly call yourself a Christian if you're not at least trying to live that way. We're not always going to succeed, but if that's our goal, then we're well on the way to being Christians. But that's not enough to be a Christian, because I'm sure you know, as I know, heaps and heaps of people who live exactly like that. They're generous, they're warm-hearted, they reach out to people, they're always thinking of others instead of themselves, but maybe they don't go to church, pardon me, maybe they don't even believe in God, and maybe they'd even be insulted if we were to call them Christians. They're really, really good people. We're very lucky to have them in our world. But they're not Christians. You can't be a Christian without it, but you need something more. And that kind of reminds me of another thing Mary MacKillop used to say to the young women who joined her and wanted to be part of her mission. She used to say to them, never forget who it is that you're following. And it's when you put the two pieces of advice together, never see a need without doing something about it, and never forget who it is that you're following, that you have a Christian. And that's what I wanted to say to you tonight. If, as part of this youth festival tonight, this experience tonight, you go away thinking, I want to be a more generous, a more warm-hearted, a more kind and sensitive person to the needs of others, and I want to do it because somehow or other Jesus is important to me in my life, and I'm discovering, even if I didn't know it before, that to have him in my life is better than not to have him in my life, then maybe tonight will have been a major success. We Christians talk about ourselves as disciples. And disciples are people who know that they've got to look beyond themselves to somebody else for their guidance, for their inspiration, for the courage they need, all of those kinds of things. And Christian disciples are people who look beyond themselves to Jesus Christ. And tonight's theme is, as we heard a little earlier, Christ is alive. So we're not talking about someone who died 10,000 years ago, is dead and buried, and we kind of remember him as a great man from the past. We're talking about someone who's alive tonight. We're here for the Veritas Festival. And you know, we really could call this the Truth Festival, because the word Veritas is a Latin word and it means truth. So we're here for our Truth Festival tonight. But we might also say that we're actually here for our Jesus Festival, because Jesus once said to his disciples, as he says to us tonight, I am the truth. I am the Veritas. And that's one of the things that Mary MacKillop understood. Never forget who it is you're following. You're following the one who described himself as the truth. Mary MacKillop was a brave woman. She took Jesus at his word. He said, I am the truth, and she was keen to say, okay, if you're the truth, then that's what I'm going to commit myself to. That's what I'm going to entrust myself to. And the challenge for us is whether or not we've got the courage and we're prepared to take the risk of taking Jesus at his word and saying, well, if you're telling me you're the truth, then you're the one I'm going to entrust myself to. We hear a lot these days about fake news. There's lots of fake news around. Well, there's also lots of fake truth around. Lots of people claim to have the truth. Lots of people claim to have all the answers. But Jesus is the one that we believe actually does have all the answers. So we're here tonight for our Veritas Festival, our Truth Festival, our Jesus Festival. But Jesus didn't only describe himself as the truth. He described himself as the way. And just as Mary MacKillop took him at his word when he said, I am the truth, she also took him at his word when he said, I am the way. Like all of us here, she had to decide what she was going to do with her life. What pathway was she going to follow? And in the end, she decided to follow the way of Jesus. The reason why she wanted to follow the way of Jesus is that she didn't want to get lost. She didn't want to find herself stumbling around in the darkness. She wanted to walk along a path that was alight with the light of the truth of Christ, the right way. And if you want your life to be all that it could possibly be, all that God wants it to be, then choose to follow the way of Christ. Mary MacKillop did it. We can do it too. The last point I want to make quickly, because Vincent told me I had 10 minutes and I've only got 1 minute 42 seconds to go. The last thing I want to say was Jesus also, he described himself as the truth, he described himself as the way, and he described himself as the life. One of the things that struck me when I got here tonight, I was standing outside, I came in here, and this place is alive tonight. Young people, like everybody really, but young people in particular, you want to be alive, you want to live life to the full, you want to get absolutely everything you can out of life. But lots of people, as I said before, claim to know the way to do that. But as disciples, we believe that Jesus is the way to do it. And so if we make room for him in our lives each day, as Mary MacKillop did, if we kind of unite ourselves to him and form a bond of friendship with him, then his life and our life can become the same life. And we'll be living our life as fully and as richly and with as much enthusiasm and excitement as we possibly can. So the challenge that I wanted to throw out to you at the start of tonight, the challenge of being a Christian disciple, of being a Catholic every day of our lives, if Jesus says to us, I am the way, follow me. I am the truth, believe me. I am the life, let me live in you so that you can come alive. The big question for us is, can I take that risk? Have I got the courage to say yes to that invitation? I hope that tonight, being here, you experience a bit of the spark of what Christianity, what being a Catholic is really all about. And if you do, then I want to say this to you. If a spark is lit tonight, or maybe the spark's already started to glow within you, come to the Australian Catholic Youth Festival from the 8th to the 10th of December, because this spark, this little flame maybe that's lit tonight, will really burst into almost like a raging fire, which will provide a light for you all the way through the rest of your life and provide you with lots of friends to walk that journey with you. So I wish you well tonight. I hope you have a fantastic time. Be full of enthusiasm, be full of excitement. Let your hair down, have a good time. But remember, we know which way to go. We know who to believe. We know what kind of life to live. It's Jesus, and Jesus is alive. Thanks, everybody, very much.